For our special guest tonight, there's been a grand final win, there's been a grand final loss, and he's about to enter an 11th finals series as head of the Geelong Football Club. We thank you tonight, Chris Scott, for joining us on the Footy Classified desk.
Thanks, Damo. Good to be here.
You've done this 10 times before. How different is it for you this time, this 11th time?
Well, I tend to look at each year in isolation, but I think if you chunk it a little bit, the last couple of years with the whole COVID situation has been really difficult on everyone, and I've been really proud of the way our club's hung in there, and I don't just mean the team and the players, but the whole club, including the supporter base, and to think that we can go to the MCG on a Saturday with crowds back. I'm told it was sold out in half an hour. It's kind of what we're all in it for, really. So with it comes, a bit of anxiety, which I think all competitors have. You actually want that in your life. So it's not completely comfortable, but I think I'm much more comfortable this year with that anxiety because of our preparation. I think we'll be able to confront the challenges in front of us from a much better spot than probably the last couple of years.
Can I take you back to comments you made earlier this year about your foes on the weekend, the Collingwood Football Club?
Collingwood play a style that's very, very hard to maintain, and we had some confidence that if it did turn a little bit around the ball and around the contest, that we'd get some good looks ahead of it.
Where do you stand on Collingwood now?
I worry about that stuff. I can't remember 2 weeks ago, much less round 3.
I think your old teammate might have it up in the rooms. No, I'm sure he won't.
Well, it's not too bad, is it?
Yeah.
Do
you still believe that is a style that's hard to sustain?
Yeah, but it's a compliment, and they should take it as such. It's a reference to the fact that they play a very, very high-pressure game. So I think you had the stats up earlier. I think they're ranked. Not that the pressure points are a little flimsy, in my opinion, but they are ranked too, so it means something. They do play a style that is frenetic, and when it works, it's hard to play against. I guess if you're looking at the other side of it, if you can hang in there well enough, and look, they played in a lot of close games, so I think that's probably a reference to that. It's if you choose to play that way, and certainly, the best team of the last, whatever it is, 10 years probably, last 6 years at least. Richmond, who are heavily influenced by, or have been influenced by Craig McRae and Justin Leppich, play a similar style of game. So if you were going to mimic a method, that's not a bad one to mimic.
There's a theory in American sports that if you give a good coach an extra week off, that's a massive advantage. Do you, with your experience, feel like you have an advantage on the back of that this week?
Well, no, the thought hadn't really crossed my mind. Probably the thing that was top of mind for me with the week off is that the extra week's really going to help Jeremy Cameron and Reece Stanley. I think they were both probably in line to play this weekend if we had a game, but the extra week is the conservative option there.
So Cameron will definitely play?
Yeah, that's what we're told. He's trained pretty normally for 2 sessions now, Friday and Monday, and that's the information I've got. I think it's a bad idea generally to ask coaches because I'm just repeating what I've heard from the medical people, but they were confident pretty early on.
Are you tempted to give him another one, considering if you win there's another week? It's going to be 21 days since he's done it on Saturday. Yeah,
we're not. But that conversation's obviously been had. So all as a coach you're looking for is a bit of equivocation from the medical staff, and they've been emphatic all the way through, and he was always going to perform his way through it. The milestones are just so clear now that, look, if we were still uncertain on Wednesday, then I reckon we'd probably take that approach. But yeah, I think it's very, very naive to sort of look at it thinking, oh, well, we'll just win this week and then we'll have another week off, and the game's much, much harder than that.
Yeah. Hey, Chris, you've had a lot of staff changes over the past 12 months from last year, including assistant coaches. So in terms of the change to the way you're playing your game, how much was it done and prepared in the off-season to how it evolves throughout a season with personnel and also compared to the strategy of it?
Yeah, we always think we're evolving, for the simple reason that we are really driven to keep improving, and if you sort of sit back and think we've got it the way we play set and we're just going to roll it out for the next 10 weeks, you get taken over pretty quickly. But having said that, we did take the opportunity, I've said this a few times publicly, with some new people coming in to actually sit down in October and almost put ourselves in the situation where we were starting afresh. And it was a good process for me to go through as well. I mean, we kind of do it, but we took this to the next level. We kind of do it most years, but we went really extreme with this. Let's just sit back, forget that I'd been there for 10 years, and we've got a lot of new players. If you walked into this team, what would you try to maximise? What are the issues you'd try to mitigate? But even then, to be honest, we pushed much more on the optimistic side. Tried to, because pessimism's easy. Especially, unless you win the premiership, you've lost the last game, and there's always things that kind of frustrate you around the way we play. We tried to focus much more on what our best players did when they were playing well, and try to shape a game style to match that.
Chris, to use the American vernacular as Kane did a moment ago, you're a winning coach in all bar the one of the 11 completed seasons you've had, and that was only half a game away from being a winning season in itself. Do you feel that you are maligned unfairly by people close to your club and the supporters of your club for the failure in the finals itself?
Well, I actually feel extraordinary support. Yeah, but I've got to say, like, my way of trying to stay on an even keel in my life is not to expose myself to certain things. Even compared to early in my coaching career, I don't follow much footy media at all, and I think it's a good way to live your life, that I think the way I want to think, and the way that people close to me want to think, and try not to let the way others think infiltrate what I do. But I've got to say, like, when I hear things like that, I think, oh gee, there must be some people out there that I don't hear that. But I kind of get it. Like, there's a real risk that comes with entering a final series. It's a lot safer for supporters sort of being outside the 8. There's some nervousness that goes into the next month. I completely get it. But even in terms of the winning seasons, I mean, I think I said it last time I was here, which was the start of the season. The thing I'm most proud of, in over 10 years, we've completely rebuilt our list. We've got a couple of players that were there when I first started, and we didn't do it by sitting outside the finals for 5 or 6 years. So, again, I can understand the frustration when you don't quite get there, but probably goes for 17 each year, doesn't it?
Is there nervousness around, you talk about nervousness around Gary Rohan, who Kane and the other guys put under the spotlight tonight as one player under pressure going into finals who hasn't always stood up in finals?
Yeah, I don't subscribe to that
and
theory.
How do you
I think
handle a player like that going into this week?
Yeah, I mean, I think every player's a little bit different, and the art of coaching is trying to sort of push the right buttons. And Lloydie probably mentioned the thing that we rate about him the most. There's probably two things. One, we think he's a great foil for Hawkins and Cameron. He's a difficult matchup if the opposition give him too much space, and his pressure's elite. Now, having said that, I just don't buy that there's pressure on him. I don't think anyone who knows footy is thinking for Geelong to win, Gary Rohan's got to dominate. And so I saw those stats. I mean, I don't look at them.
A player who doesn't play well in finals, it can be an unfair stigma, but it's a stigma.
Yeah, but you answered your own question. If it's unfair, I don't think we should acknowledge it. I think
1 touch and 5 touches, you've got to contribute more than that, Chris.
He did a hammy.
So, yeah.
He did a hammy in the prelim final. Like, even the numbers that you put up there was pretty tight. I mean, it's a good question to ask me live on TV, because I get a bit defensive of my players, and I wear that as a badge of honour. But I think it's borderline silliness to highlight a player who none of you would have in the top 15 players in our team and say he's the one under the most pressure.
So what's your biggest selection call this week?
Well, this is the worst part of coaching. I think we've got... it's funny because you work so hard to get a group of players, a big group of players that could all fill a role, and the better job you do to achieve that, the more difficult it becomes at selection. So we've got some guys that have played a lot of footy for us over the last couple of years that will miss out. I guess it's always...
When will you tell those players?
I'll tell them before I tell you.
Yeah, have you told them yet though?
No. And they're all sort of individual cases, so it's not a matter of... We don't sort of have a process we work through where it's consistent for everyone. We'd prefer to take it on a sort of case-by-case basis, but I guess the important thing with our selection, we've been a bit like this throughout the year. We're not going to pick a team for the first final and say, I hope we can play that team for the rest of the games. we will pick a team this week, and if we lose the game, we'll probably pick a different team the next week. And yeah, the guys that don't play will very much still be in the frame for us after that.